My name is Lana, and I'm 18 years old. I was always the responsible one in my family, the studious daughter who followed the rules. Until last month, I thought my parents loved me as much as they loved my older sister. I was wrong. With my SATs just days away, they kicked me out of my own home to make room for my sister's wedding guests. When I had nowhere to go, my sister told me to live on the streets. That text message changed everything. Before I tell you how my sister's perfect wedding came crashing down, let me know where you're watching from. And hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up for yourself when no one else would. I grew up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Our house wasn't anything fancy, a four-bedroom colonial with a nice backyard, where we used to have barbecues in the summer. My father, Richard, worked as an investment banker at a local firm, and my mother, Susan, was a real estate agent who specialized in luxury properties. They provided us with a comfortable life, but there was always an unspoken hierarchy in our home. From as early as I can remember, my sister Jenna was the golden child. 27 years old and working as a marketing executive, Jenna had always been dramatic, outgoing, and somehow always got her way. She was the one whose dance recitals we never missed, whose minor achievements were celebrated with dinner outings, and whose tears would instantly mobilize my parents into action. I learned early on that in the Marshall household, Jenna's needs always came first. I took a different path. I found solace in my studies, pouring my energy into academics where I excelled. By my senior year, I was top of my class with a perfect 4.0 GPA. My teachers often told my parents they had never seen someone with such dedication. But those accomplishments were usually met with polite nods, rather than the enthusiasm that greeted Jenna's latest promotion or new car. Lana is just naturally good at school, my mother would say, as if my success required no effort or acknowledgement. She doesn't need the encouragement that Jenna does. Despite this, I maintained hope that my academic achievements would eventually earn their recognition. My dream was to attend an Ivy League school, specifically Yale, with its renowned literature program. But with my parents making it clear they wouldn't contribute much to my education, I knew I needed scholarships. That's where the SATs came in. They weren't just another test for me. They were my ticket to financial aid and scholarship opportunities that could make my dreams possible. For months, I had been studying intensively, taking practice tests, working with online tutors, since my parents wouldn't pay for in-person ones, and sacrificing my social life entirely. My bedroom had transformed into a study fortress with flashcards covering the walls and practice tests stacked neatly on my desk. The first signs of trouble appeared 6 months ago, when Jenna announced her engagement to Thomas Williams, the son of a wealthy family who owned several car dealerships across the Midwest. Thomas was handsome, charming, and came from a family with traditional values who believed strongly in the importance of family unity and education. They were exactly the kind of people who wouldn't understand someone putting a wedding above their child's education. But I wouldn't realize the significance of that until later. As soon as that diamond ring appeared on Jenna's finger, my already invisible status in the family faded even further into obscurity. Our home became wedding planning central. Every dinner conversation revolved around venues, flowers, guest lists, and Jenna's increasingly elaborate demands. My mother took time off work to help Jenna shop for wedding dresses, while my father happily opened his checkbook for deposits on venues I knew were stretching their budget. Meanwhile, I was trying to remind them about my upcoming SATs. Mom, I have my SATs in 2 months. I was wondering if I could have some quiet time in the evenings to study. I asked one night as Jenna and my mother spread wedding magazines across our dining table. Oh, honey, you're always studying. You'll be fine. My mother dismissed me with a wave. Jenna needs to finalize her bridesmaids' dresses tonight. Jenna didn't even look up. Yeah, Lana, this is important. You can study in your room. My room, which shared a wall with Jenna's, where I could hear every screech and laugh as she made wedding calls late into the night. As the wedding date approached, Jenna transformed from merely self-centered to downright tyrannical. She expected everyone to drop everything at her command, threw tantrums when things weren't perfect, and spoke endlessly about how her wedding needed to impress Thomas's family. The pressure from the Williams family seemed to be getting to her, though she never admitted it. They were old money with strong opinions about how things should be done. The Williams have certain expectations became her mantra, one my parents repeated as they drained their savings to meet those expectations. I tried to be understanding. I helped address invitations, gave opinions on color schemes when asked, and rearranged my study schedule to accommodate the constant wedding meetings in our home. But as my SAT date drew closer, my anxiety grew. I needed focused time and a quiet environment, both of which were becoming scarce commodities in the Marshall household. Dad. I approached him one evening in his study, the one place relatively untouched by wedding chaos. My SATs are in 3 weeks. I've been having trouble concentrating with all the wedding planning. Is there any way we could keep the evenings quiet just until after my test? My father looked up from his laptop where he was reviewing wedding expenses. He sighed, removing his glasses. Lana, we all have to make sacrifices for Jenna's big day. Your sister is only getting married once. I know, but I'm only taking the SATs once too, I countered. This test determines my college options. You're smart, you'll do fine, he said, a dismissive refrain I'd heard too many times. Jenna needs our support right now. I swallowed my frustration and nodded, retreating to my room where I put in earplugs to drown out the sound of Jenna's laughter from downstairs, as she FaceTimed with her bridesmaids. I couldn't understand why my future seemed to matter so little in comparison to a single day of Jenna's life, but I was determined to succeed despite the obstacles my own family was placing in my path. Little did I know that their dismissal of my needs was about to escalate from inconsiderate to something I never thought possible from the people who were supposed to love and protect me. 2 weeks before my SATs, our family dynamic went from strained to shattered. It was a Sunday afternoon, and my parents had called a family meeting in the living room. Jenna was sitting on the couch with an expression I recognized all too well, the smug look she wore when she knew she was about to get her way. We need to discuss some changes to the wedding week arrangements. My father began exchanging glances with my mother. My mother took over, her voice overly bright. Jenna just heard from Thomas's family. It turns out more relatives are coming in from out of town than expected. They'll need places to stay. I nodded absently, highlighting passages in my SAT prep book. This didn't seem to concern me. Jenna cleared her throat dramatically. The thing is, we need more space in the house. Thomas's aunt and uncle are older and need the guest room, and his cousins will need somewhere to sleep too. My father looked at me directly now. Lana, we need you to temporarily move out of your room for the week before the wedding. My highlighter froze mid-stroke. What? Where am I supposed to go? We thought you could stay with a friend, my mother suggested. Just for a week or so. I closed my book slowly, trying to process what they were saying. My SATs are that Saturday. I need a quiet place to study that whole week. It's just one test, Jenna interjected. You can study anywhere. The casualness with which she dismissed the most important exam of my life made my blood boil. It's not just one test. It's the test that determines my college options and scholarship opportunities. My father raised his hand to silence me. Lana, this is a special circumstance. Jenna's wedding is important, and we need to accommodate Thomas's family. They're going to be our in-laws. But what about accommodating me? I've been preparing for these SATs for months. You know how important they are. Don't be so dramatic, Jenna rolled her eyes. You're acting like we're asking you to donate a kidney. It's just a week in a different bed. I tried to stay calm to be reasonable. Why can't Thomas's family stay in a hotel? There are plenty near the venue. My mother looked uncomfortable. Well, Thomas's parents suggested that family should stay with family. It's important to them, and we want to make a good impression. What about making a good impression on colleges? What about my future? My voice cracked slightly. Oh, please, Jenna scoffed. Like you need help with that. You're the perfect student already. That's because I work hard and need the right environment to study, I insisted. Can't they stay with other relatives? What about Aunt Marge? She has that big house with empty rooms since the twins left for college. She's already hosting the bridesmaids, my father said firmly. Lana, this isn't up for discussion. We need you to make this sacrifice for your sister. The unfairness of it hit me like a physical blow. So my education means nothing compared to Jenna's wedding. Don't put words in our mouths, my mother said sharply. We're just asking you to be flexible for a special occasion. The way Jenna is being flexible about my needs, I countered. Jenna's expression changed instantly. Her eyes welled up with tears, a tactic I'd seen her use countless times. I knew you would try to ruin this for me. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and you're making it all about you. My parents immediately shifted to comfort mode. My father patted Jenna's shoulder, while my mother shot me a disapproving look. Now look what you've done, she scolded. Jenna is under enough stress planning this wedding. And I'm not under stress with my future on the line. I stood up, my prep book clutched tightly. I can't believe you're doing this to me. 2 weeks before the most important test of my life, you're kicking me out of my own home. We're not kicking you out, my father said sternly. We're asking you to stay with a friend temporarily. And if I can't find someone, I challenged. You have plenty of friends, my mother said dismissively. I'm sure someone will help. The argument escalated as I continued to plead my case. I suggested alternatives, compromises, anything to avoid displacement right before my SATs. Maybe Thomas's relatives could stay at his place. Perhaps they could convert the basement. But each suggestion was shot down often, with Jenna adding theatrical sobs about how I was trying to sabotage her special day. By the end of that family meeting, an ultimatum had been delivered: find somewhere else to stay for the wedding week, or be prepared to give up my room anyway. There was no consideration for my needs, no acknowledgement of the importance of my exam. In their eyes, Jenna's wedding trumped my future period. That night, I called my closest friends, hoping someone could take me in. To my dismay, most had legitimate reasons they couldn't help. Sarah's family was renovating their spare room. Madison was leaving for a family vacation that week. Jason's parents weren't comfortable having a girl stay over. With each rejection, my panic grew. Extended family wasn't an option either. They had all been enlisted for wedding duties or were hosting other guests. My grandparents were too far away to commute to the test center. It seemed like everyone in my life had been absorbed into the black hole that was Jenna's wedding. I lay in my bed that night, the bed I was expected to surrender, and cried silently into my pillow. The betrayal cut deep. Not only were my parents choosing Jenna over me again, but they were actively harming my chances at the future I'd worked so hard for. For the first time, I wondered if they had ever truly loved me the way they loved her. 1 week before my SATs, the situation deteriorated further. Thomas's relatives started arriving earlier than expected, and suddenly my personal space was under immediate threat. I returned from school to find my mother and Jenna in my room rearranging my belongings. "What are you doing?" I stood in the doorway watching in horror as my mother removed my SAT materials from my desk. "Just getting things organized," my mother said brightly. "Thomas's aunt and uncle are arriving tomorrow instead of Thursday. We're putting your study things in these boxes so you can take them wherever you're staying." My carefully arranged study system, the wall of flashcards, the color-coded notes all being dismantled and stuffed haphazardly into cardboard boxes. I rushed forward, reaching for my practice tests. "Please be careful with those. I have them organized by topic and difficulty." Jenna sighed dramatically. "It's just paper, Lana. You can reorganize it wherever you're going." "Have you found a place to stay yet?" my mother asked, as if she were simply inquiring about weekend plans rather than my housing situation. "No," I admitted, my voice small. "Most of my friends can't help. Their parents either don't have space or aren't comfortable with it." My mother frowned. "Well, you need to figure something out by tomorrow." "Maybe I could sleep on the couch," I suggested desperately. "I could keep my study materials in the basement and just come up to sleep." "The living room is where everyone will gather in the evenings," my mother dismissed. "And the basement is where we're storing the wedding gifts and decorations." As they continued dismantling my room, I noticed some of my materials were already damaged. My vocabulary flashcards had been rubber banded together so tightly that the corners were bent. My practice test booklet had a coffee stain on the cover. "What happened to these?" I held up the stained booklet. "Oh," Jenna waved dismissively. "I might have accidentally spilled something when we started packing. It's still usable, right?" The casualness with which she admitted to damaging my materials made my blood boil. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain control. "These materials cost money, Jenna. Money that I earned from tutoring because you and your wedding are draining Mom and Dad's finances." Jenna's face darkened. "Excuse me, are you saying my wedding is a burden after everything Mom and Dad have done for you?" "What exactly have they done for me lately? They're literally kicking me out before the most important test of my life." Before Jenna could respond, the doorbell rang. My mother hurried downstairs, leaving us alone. Jenna stepped closer to me, her voice low and threatening. "Listen, little sister, this is my time. My wedding, my moment. I'm not going to let you turn this into another poor Lana doesn't get enough attention pity party. Find somewhere else to stay and stop being such a drama queen about a stupid test." I stared at her, finally seeing my sister clearly. "This stupid test determines my future, Jenna. But you wouldn't understand that because everything has always been handed to you." She laughed coldly. "Handed to me? I worked for everything I have." "Really? Who paid for your college? Who bought you your first car? Who's paying for this ridiculous wedding? It wasn't from your marketing salary." Jenna's face flushed with anger. "You know what your problem is, Lana? You're jealous. You've always been jealous of me. Well, get used to disappointment. The world doesn't revolve around you and your precious SATs." She stormed out, leaving me alone in my half-dismantled room. I sat on my bed, fighting back tears. How had it come to this? How could my family be so blind to what they were doing? The next day brought another wave of chaos. Jenna's bridesmaids arrived and immediately took over the house. They were loud and considerate and treated me like a servant. "Hey, could you grab us some more wine from the kitchen?" One of them called out as I tried to study at the dining room table, the only quiet space left. "I'm studying," I replied without looking up. "God, your sister was right." "You are selfish," another bridesmaid muttered just loud enough for me to hear. By evening, the noise level had become unbearable. Music blasted from the living room where the bridesmaids were having an impromptu pre-wedding celebration. My parents were out with Thomas's parents, leaving me to deal with the chaos alone. I retreated to the back porch, bundled in a jacket against the cool evening air, trying to memorize math formulas while the bass from the music inside vibrated through the walls. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Amanda. "Parents finally said yes. You can stay with us Weds and Thursday night, but we're leaving Friday for my brother's college visit. Sorry." It wasn't much, but it was something. At least I had 2 nights covered. But what about Friday night, the night before my SAT? Where would I sleep? Where would I review my final notes? Desperation drove me to make one last appeal to my parents when they returned home. I caught them in the kitchen after they'd said goodnight to Jenna and her friends. "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you," I said, my prep books clutched to my chest like a shield. "I still don't have a place to stay for the entire week. Amanda's family can only take me for 2 nights. I don't know where to go after that." My father looked tired, loosening his tie. "Lana, we've been through this. You need to figure it out." "But I've tried everyone I know. No one can help for the whole week, especially Friday night. That's the night before my test. I need a good night's sleep and a place to do my final review." My mother sighed. "What about the library? You can study there during the day." "The library closes at 6 p.m., I said. "And I can't sleep there. I'm talking about where I'm going to live, Mom." "Don't be so dramatic," my father said sharply. "This is temporary." "Temporary homelessness is still homelessness." My voice rose with frustration. "I can't believe you're doing this to me, your own daughter." "Jenna is our daughter too," my mother countered. "And this is her special time." "And what about my special time? My SATs are this Saturday." My father slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. "Enough! Your sister's wedding is more important than your test. You can retake the SAT. Jenna only gets one wedding day." The words hung in the air between us, the truth finally spoken aloud. In their eyes, I was less important. My future was less important. The test I had been preparing for months for was less important than a single day of celebration for their favorite daughter. "I see," I said quietly, a strange calm washing over me as the last of my illusions about my family shattered. "Thank you for making it clear where I stand." "Lana," my mother began, perhaps hearing the finality in my voice. "No, it's fine. I'll figure it out myself. I always do." I turned and walked upstairs to finish packing my things, knowing now that I truly was on my own. The next morning, I loaded my belongings into my 10-year-old Honda Civic, the car I had saved for, and bought myself unlike Jenna's gifted BMW. My room was now being transformed for Thomas's relatives. As I placed the last box in my trunk, I felt strangely hollow, as if something fundamental had broken inside me. I was officially homeless, with 3 days until the most important test of my academic career, and my family had made it clear that they didn't care. After leaving home, I drove straight to Amanda's house, where I could stay for 2 nights. Her parents were kind, but clearly uncomfortable with the situation. They set up an air mattress in Amanda's room and gave me space in their garage for my belongings. I was grateful, but the temporary nature of this solution kept me on edge. "I can't believe your parents did this," Amanda said as we sat on her bed that evening, surrounded by my study materials. "Over a wedding, that's insane." I nodded numbly, trying to focus on a practice test, but reading the same question multiple times without comprehension. The stress was affecting my concentration, and my practice scores were starting to slip. "I've called everyone I know," I said, rubbing my tired eyes. "No one can help for Friday night. I'm running out of options." "What about a hotel?" Amanda suggested. I checked. There's a conference in town plus Jenna's wedding. Everything affordable is booked, and I only have about $200 saved. Amanda's family was kind, but they couldn't extend their hospitality because they were leaving town Friday morning for her brother's college visit. By Thursday afternoon, the countdown to homelessness had begun again. I reached out to my school counselor, Ms. Parker, explaining my situation. She was appalled but limited in how she could help. The school can't officially get involved in family matters like this, she explained during our meeting. But I can offer you the study room here until 5 p.m. on Friday. After that, the school closes for the weekend. Thank you, I said, grateful for even this small assistance. Every little bit helps. Lana, she hesitated, have you considered talking to Child Protective Services? What your parents are doing could be considered neglect. I shook my head quickly. I'm 18, technically an adult, and I don't want to create a bigger mess right before my test. I just need to get through the next 2 days. She looked concerned but nodded. Keep me updated, please, and come early Saturday. I'll be here to drive you to the test center myself. Thursday night, my last at Amanda's house, I lay awake on the air mattress, anxiety gnawing at my stomach. Where would I go tomorrow? The library until closing time. Then what? The thought of sleeping in my car terrified me. It wasn't just about comfort. It was about safety. Friday morning arrived with cruel brightness. I hugged Amanda goodbye as her family loaded their car for their trip. Text me how it goes, she said worriedly. I wish we didn't have to leave. It's okay, I assured her, forcing a smile. I'll figure something out. But as I drove to school with my belongings crammed in my car, I had no idea what that something would be. I spent the day in Ms. Parker's study room reviewing materials and taking my final practice test. My score was 15 points lower than my previous average. The stress was taking its toll. At 5 p.m., a security guard gently informed me the school was closing. I packed my materials with deliberate slowness, dreading the moment I'd have to leave. With nowhere else to go, I drove to a local coffee shop, ordered the cheapest item on the menu, and spread my materials across a small table in the corner. I nursed that single coffee for 3 hours until the barista started giving me pointed looks. It was 9 p.m. and the cafe would close at 10. Desperation made me do something I'd been avoiding. I texted Jenna, I know you're busy with wedding stuff, but I'm in a really bad situation. I don't have anywhere to stay tonight, and my SAT is tomorrow morning. Is there any way I could sleep on the couch just for tonight? I'll be quiet and leave early. I watched the message deliver, then show as read almost immediately. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her response came through. Are you seriously trying to make my wedding weekend about you again? Just live on the streets for all I care. It's one night. Stop being so dramatic and leave me alone. This is my time. I stared at the message in disbelief, tears blurring my vision. My own sister, my own flesh and blood telling me to live on the streets. I took a screenshot of the conversation, something I did instinctively, not yet knowing how important that evidence would become. At 10 p.m., the cafe closed, and I found myself sitting in my car in the parking lot, utterly alone. Rain began to fall pattering against the windshield as I reclined my seat as far as it would go, trying to find a comfortable position. The reality of my situation crashed down on me. I was homeless the night before the most important test of my life, abandoned by the people who should have protected me most. I cried until my eyes burned and my throat ached, curled up in the driver's seat of my old Honda. The rain grew heavier, drumming on the roof, providing a soundtrack to my misery. Around midnight, huddled under my coat for warmth, I found myself staring at Jenna's cruel message again. Something shifted inside me. The hurt began to crystallize into something harder, something like resolve. My entire life I had accepted being second best, had swallowed my needs, had played the role of the understanding daughter. And where had it gotten me? Sleeping in my car before my SATs while my sister celebrated her wedding with the full support of my parents. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel the full extent of my anger. I was done being the family doormat, done sacrificing my needs for Jenna's wants, done pretending this treatment was normal or acceptable. As I drifted into an uneasy sleep interrupted by uncomfortable positions and the occasional car passing by, I made a decision. After my test tomorrow, things would change. I didn't know how yet, but I would no longer silently accept being treated as less worthy than my sister. What I didn't realize was that the opportunity to stand up for myself would come much sooner than I expected, and the consequences would be far more dramatic than I could have imagined. I woke up the next morning with a stiff neck and aching back after sleeping in my car. The clock on my dashboard read 5:30 a.m. My SAT was scheduled for 8:00 a.m., and I had planned to use these early morning hours for a final review of key concepts. But as I tried to focus on my study materials, my mind kept drifting back to Jenna's cruel text. Just live on the streets for all I care. The words had burrowed deep, festering in my heart through the uncomfortable night. I pulled out my phone and reread the entire exchange. Something in me had fundamentally changed. The hurt was still there, but it was now overshadowed by a cold clarity. This wasn't just about me being inconvenienced. This was about a pattern of cruelty and favoritism that had defined my entire life. Thomas hadn't seen this side of Jenna. His family, with their emphasis on family unity and education, would be horrified to know what she had said to her own sister. The thought struck me like lightning. They deserved to know who they were welcoming into their family. My hands trembled slightly as I composed a message to Thomas. We weren't close, but we had each other's numbers from family gatherings. Thomas, I'm sorry to reach out like this, especially on your wedding weekend. I've always respected your relationship with Jenna, but there's something you should know. My parents kicked me out of the house for wedding preparations, even though my SATs are today. When I had nowhere to sleep last night, this is what Jenna said. I attached the screenshot of our conversation showing Jenna's dismissive cruelty in her own words. I spent last night sleeping in my car in a cafe parking lot. I'm not telling you this to cause drama, but because I think you deserve to know the kind of person you're marrying. Someone who would tell her own sister to live on the streets before the most important test of her life. I wish things were different. My finger hovered over the send button. Was this the right thing to do? Was I acting out of petty revenge? But then I remembered how Thomas had once talked about the importance of education, how his parents had established scholarships at their alma mater. They valued the things my family was dismissing. I pressed send, then immediately composed a similar message to Thomas's mother, Martha, who had always been kind to me at family gatherings. She had given me her number months ago, saying to reach out if I needed anything for the wedding. Mrs. Williams, I apologize for messaging you directly, but I wanted you to be aware of a situation. My parents have required me to leave our home to accommodate wedding guests despite my SATs being scheduled for today. When I asked Jenna for help finding a place to stay last night, this was her response. I attached the same screenshot, then continued. I spent last night sleeping in my car. I'm not sharing this to cause problems, but I know how much your family values education and family support. I felt you should know the full situation. I sent this message too, then put my phone on silent and tucked it away. I needed to focus on my test now regardless of the fallout. I drove to a nearby gas station to freshen up as best I could in their bathroom, splashing water on my face and brushing my teeth. My reflection looked back at me pale and tired, but somehow stronger. By 7:15 a.m., I was parked at the test center, reviewing flashcards and trying to prepare mentally. My phone remained untouched in my backpack. Whatever consequences came from my messages would have to wait until after the SAT. I walked into the testing center at 7:45, forcing all thoughts of my family situation from my mind. For the next 4 hours, I would think only about the tests that could determine my academic future. The proctor called us to begin, and I opened my test booklet with shaking hands. The first few questions seemed to swim before my eyes, but I took a deep breath, remembering all my months of preparation. Gradually, my focus sharpened. Despite everything I knew this material, question by question, section by section, I worked through the exam, pouring every ounce of my determination into each answer. When the proctor finally called time, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. I had done my best under circumstances no student should ever face. Whatever my score would be, I knew I had shown incredible resilience just by making it to the test center. As I walked to my car, I finally pulled out my phone. The screen lit up with notifications. 15 missed calls from Jenna, 7 from my mother, 3 from my father. Multiple texts, each more frantic than the last. Jenna, what have you done? Call me right now. Jenna, I swear to God, Lana, if you don't call me back. Jenna, you've ruined everything. How could you do this to me? Mom, Lana, call home immediately. We need to talk. Mom, your sister is devastated. What were you thinking? Dad, come home now. We need to fix this mess you've created. And then, surprisingly, messages from Thomas and his mother. Thomas, Lana, I got your message. Can we talk? I'm really concerned about this. Mrs. Williams, dear, I'm so sorry to hear about your situation. This is unacceptable. We're discussing this with your parents right now. Are you safe? And most surprisingly, a message from Thomas's father. Lana, this is James Williams. Martha showed me your message. We've spoken with your parents and are deeply disturbed by this situation. Please come to our home when you finish your test. We have a guest room ready for you. I sat in my car stunned by the rapid development of events. Clearly, my messages had created the exact earthquake I had anticipated, but I hadn't expected the Williams family to offer me shelter. I texted Mrs. Williams back. Just finished my SAT. Thank you for your concern and kind offer. I would be very grateful for a place to stay tonight. She responded immediately with their address and added, "We're proud of you for taking your test despite these circumstances. Drive safely, dear." Instead of driving to the Williams home immediately, I parked at a nearby park to decompress. I needed to process what was happening. According to the flurry of texts from Jenna, I had ruined everything. Had Thomas canceled or postponed the wedding? Had their perfect facade cracked under the weight of truth? A text from Thomas answered my unspoken question. "Lana, I want you to know that I've asked Jenna for some time to reconsider things. The wedding is on hold for now. I had no idea your family had treated you this way. I'm so sorry." The wedding was on hold. My simple act of truth-telling had accomplished what all my pleading and reasoning had failed to do. It had made someone finally see the reality of my situation. I felt no joy, no vindictive pleasure at this news, only a profound sadness that it had come to this, and a quiet certainty that I had done the right thing. As I drove toward the Williams home, I braced myself for the next chapter in this unexpected turn of events, knowing that while my SATs might be over, the real test was just beginning. Driving to the Williams estate, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief at having somewhere safe to stay, anxiety about the confrontations that surely awaited me, and lingering exhaustion from both the SAT and my night in the car. Their home was impressive, a sprawling colonial on 3 acres at the edge of town. Martha Williams was waiting at the door when I arrived, her expression a mixture of concern and warmth. "Lana, come in," she said, ushering me inside. "You poor thing, you must be exhausted." "Thank you for having me," I said, suddenly self-conscious about my rumpled appearance. "I really appreciate it." "It's the least we could do," she replied, leading me through their tastefully decorated home. "What your family did is simply unacceptable. No child should be put out of their home, especially before such an important test." She showed me to a guest room that was larger than my bedroom at home, with a private bathroom attached. "Make yourself comfortable. Rest. We can talk later when you're ready." I thanked her again, fighting back tears at this unexpected kindness. After she left, I took a long hot shower, washing away the discomfort of the previous night. Wrapped in the plush robe provided, I checked my phone again. More missed calls, more angry texts. I silenced them all, needing space from my family's fury. I must have fallen asleep because I woke to a gentle knock on the door. It was Thomas, looking serious, but not angry. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can we talk?" I nodded, sitting up on the bed. "I'm sorry if my messages caused problems, but I'm not sorry for telling the truth." Thomas sat in the armchair by the window. "Don't apologize. I'm the one who's sorry. I had no idea Jenna could be so cruel." "She's always been the golden child," I said. "Everything revolves around her. I've just never mattered as much." "That's awful," he said, genuinely disturbed. "When I showed my parents your messages, they were horrified. My mom especially. She says education is sacred." "I tried to find other options," I said. "I called everyone I knew." Thomas nodded. "I believe you. That's why I've postponed the wedding." My heart skipped. "You've actually postponed it? Not just threatened to—" "Yes," he confirmed. "The guests have been notified that due to unforeseen circumstances, the ceremony is delayed. My parents supported the decision completely." "Jenna must be furious," I whispered. Thomas's expression hardened slightly. "She is, but not for the reasons you might think. She's not sorry for what she said to you. She's just angry that you showed me. She tried to claim you were lying until I showed her the screenshot of her own words." "And my parents?" I asked. "They're—" He hesitated. "They're more concerned about the money they've spent on the wedding than about you sleeping in your car." "I'm sorry to say that." The truth hurt, but it wasn't surprising. That sounds like them. "After seeing how they've treated you and how Jenna responded when confronted," Thomas continued, "I'm seriously reconsidering the relationship entirely. This isn't just about one text, it's about character." I felt a flash of guilt. "I didn't send those messages to break you up. I just thought you deserved to know the truth." "And I appreciate that," he assured me. "More than you know. My family has always valued honesty and education. The idea that someone would prioritize wedding guests over their child's education and safety is alien to us." Later that evening, I joined the Williams family for dinner. James Thomas's father was as kind as his wife, expressing outrage at my situation and praising my determination in taking the SAT despite everything. "That shows real character," he said approvingly. Perseverance in the face of adversity. That's the kind of quality that builds success. During dinner, my phone continued to vibrate with calls and messages. Finally, Martha suggested gently, "Perhaps you should answer one of those. Let them know you're safe at least." Reluctantly, I excused myself and called my mother back. "Lana, where are you?" she demanded immediately. "You need to come home right now and fix this mess." "I'm safe," I said calmly. "I'm staying with the Williams family." "You're what?" Her voice rose an octave. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Jenna is devastated. The wedding is postponed. We've lost thousands in deposits." The fact that her first concern was money rather than my welfare confirmed everything. "Did you ever stop to think about what you did to me? You kicked me out before the most important test of my life." "We did not kick you out," she hissed. "We asked you to stay with a friend. And when I couldn't find one, when I told you I had nowhere to go, you still chose wedding guests over your own daughter." "You're being dramatic," she dismissed. "It was one night that I spent sleeping in my car." My voice cracked. "And when I asked Jenna for help, she told me to live on the streets." Those were her exact words, Mom. "She was stressed about the wedding," my mother defended. "She didn't mean it." "She meant it," I said firmly. "And now Thomas and his family know exactly who she is, who all of you are." The conversation deteriorated from there, with my mother alternating between demanding I come home and blaming me for ruining Jenna's special day. My father eventually took the phone and tried a different approach, his voice stern with controlled anger. "Lana, you will apologize to your sister, and you will tell Thomas and his family that you exaggerated. We've spent a fortune on this wedding, and you have no right to interfere." "I have the screenshots, Dad," I said quietly. "I didn't exaggerate anything, and I won't lie to protect Jenna anymore." He switched tactics again, this time offering a bribe. "If you fix this, we'll help pay for your first semester of college, whatever school you want." The transparent attempt to buy me off was the final straw. My education suddenly matters now that Jenna's wedding is in jeopardy. "No thanks. I'd rather earn scholarships than take money with those kinds of strings attached." I hung up, hands shaking but oddly calm inside. For the first time in my life, I had stood up to my parents without backing down. When I returned to the dining room, the Williams family tactfully avoided asking about the call, instead steering the conversation to my college plans. They seemed genuinely interested in my academic goals, something my own family rarely showed. Later that night, as I lay in the comfortable guest bed, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Just wanted you to know that after talking more with Jenna today and seeing how she and your parents responded to all this, I've decided to end the relationship. The wedding isn't just postponed anymore, it's canceled. I'm sorry if this causes you more difficulty with your family, but thank you for helping me see the truth before I made a huge mistake." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a complex mixture of emotions. I hadn't intended to end their relationship, but I couldn't say I was surprised by Thomas's decision. Nor could I honestly say I was sorry. The Jenna he had seen these past 2 days was the real Jenna, the one I had known all my life. As Saturday turned to Sunday, reports from mutual friends filtered in. Jenna had apparently had a complete meltdown at the venue when Thomas officially called off the wedding. My parents were facing significant financial losses from non-refundable deposits. The extended family was divided, with some blaming me for speaking up, and others shocked by how I had been treated. Through it all, the Williams family remained supportive, offering me a place to stay until I figured out my next steps. Martha even helped me research scholarship opportunities for the fall semester, while James offered to write a recommendation letter, highlighting my perseverance. My SAT scores wouldn't come for weeks, but in a strange way, I had already passed a more important test. I had finally stood up for myself and refused to be devalued by my own family. The cost had been high, perhaps permanently altering my family relationships, but as I drifted off to sleep in the safety of the Williams guest room, I knew I had done the right thing. Sometimes the truth costs everything, but living a lie costs even more. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a new and unexpected pattern. The Williams family, impressed by my situation and academic drive, invited me to stay in their guest house until I left for college. It was a generosity I never expected, providing me with stability during what would otherwise have been a chaotic time. My SAT scores arrived 3 weeks after the test, despite all the obstacles I had scored in the 96th percentile. Not my absolute best based on practice tests, but more than enough to qualify for the scholarship programs I was targeting. When I shared the news with Martha and James, they celebrated with me, taking me out to dinner in a way my own parents never had for my achievements. "We knew you could do it," Martha said warmly. "Your determination is remarkable." My relationship with my family remained strained. My parents made several attempts to reconcile, but their approaches revealed they still didn't understand the fundamental issue. They offered financial help now suddenly available after Jenna's wedding expenses were no longer a factor. They suggested I could move back home, presenting it as a generous offer, rather than what should have been my right all along. What they never offered was a genuine apology or acknowledgement of how deeply they had hurt me. In their narrative, I had overreacted to a reasonable request and vindictively ruined my sister's wedding. The fact that they still couldn't see the injustice of their actions made true reconciliation impossible. Jenna was even less inclined toward making amends. She blocked me on all social media and told mutual friends I was dead to her. The dramatic proclamation was quintessential Jenna turning herself into the victim of a story where she had been the perpetrator. Thomas surprisingly remained in touch, not romantically, of course, but as a supportive friend. He too had experienced the fallout of standing up to toxic behavior with some of his friends, questioning why he would call off a wedding over family drama. "I didn't cancel because of drama," he explained when we met for coffee one afternoon. "I canceled because I saw a side of Jenna I couldn't unsee. The way she treated you, her own sister, over something as important as your education. I realized that's how she would treat our children someday if they inconvenienced her." His insight was painfully accurate. The patterns established in my family would have continued into the next generation had Thomas not recognized the red flags. As spring turned to summer, I focused on my future. With my SAT scores and strong academic record, I received acceptance letters from several excellent universities, including my dream school, Yale. The financial aid packages were substantial, though not complete. Martha and James, without my knowledge, contacted their alumni network and helped secure additional scholarship funding. "Consider it an investment in the future," James said when I tried to express my gratitude. "The world needs more young people with your integrity and determination." With my housing and educational future secure, I had the space to process the emotional impact of everything that had happened. The Williams family recommended a therapist who specialized in family trauma, and those weekly sessions became crucial to my healing journey. "What you experienced was parentification and scapegoating," Dr. Melanie explained during one session. "You were expected to be more mature and accommodating than your sister, despite being younger, and you were blamed when you finally stood up for yourself." Understanding the dynamics at play helped me move past the guilt that sometimes surfaced. I hadn't destroyed my sister's wedding out of spite. I had simply revealed the truth after years of enabling dysfunctional behavior. By August, I was preparing to leave for college. My parents made one final attempt at reconciliation, inviting me to dinner at a neutral restaurant. The conversation was strained, with my mother making surface-level inquiries about my college plans, while my father maintained an uncomfortable silence. "We want you to know that we love you," my mother said eventually, "and we hope you can put this wedding business behind us." "It was never about the wedding," I replied calmly. "It was about how easily you discarded me and my needs. It was about years of treating Jenna as more important than me." "That's not fair," my father finally spoke. "We never meant to make you feel less important." "Intent doesn't change impact," I said, repeating a phrase I had learned in therapy. "You might not have meant to hurt me, but you did, repeatedly. And you still haven't acknowledged that what you did was wrong." They exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with my newfound ability to articulate my feelings without backing down. "Well," my mother said after an awkward silence, "we're still your parents and we'll always be here for you." The irony of that statement after they had literally left me homeless was almost laughable. But I recognized it as the closest thing to reconciliation they could offer at that point. "I appreciate that," I said neutrally. "But I need actions, not words. I need to see real change before I can trust again." That dinner ended without the tearful reunion they might have hoped for, but with a clearer understanding of my boundaries. I left knowing that healing our relationship would be a long process, if it happened at all. The day I moved into my college dorm was bittersweet. My parents didn't attend sending, instead a check with a brief note wishing me well. Martha and James helped me move in, treating me with the parental pride and support I had always craved from my own family. As I unpacked in my new room, my roommate Zoe asked about the family dropping me off. "Are those your parents?" she asked, having met the Williams briefly. "No," I answered, considering how to explain. "They're family friends who helped me when I needed it most." "That's nice," she said. "My parents are coming tomorrow. They're pretty overwhelming, so brace yourself." I smiled, thinking how perspective changes everything. A year ago, I would have envied anyone with parents who cared enough to be overwhelming. Now, I understood that family isn't just about biological connections, but about who shows up when you need them. That first semester of college became a time of reinvention, free from the shadow of being Jenna's little sister, or the family afterthought. I discovered parts of myself I never knew existed. I joined the campus newspaper, made friends who valued my intelligence and perspective, and excelled in my classes without the constant background noise of family drama. During Thanksgiving break, I stayed on campus rather than going home, and Christmas was spent with the Williams family, who had become a surrogate family of sorts. Thomas was there too, with a new girlfriend who seemed kind and grounded in ways Jenna never was. There was no awkwardness, only a shared understanding of having narrowly escaped unhealthy relationships. My mother sent occasional texts, my father the rare email about practical matters like tax forms for my financial aid. Jenna remained steadfastly silent, though I heard through mutual friends that she was dating someone new and telling a very creative version of why her wedding had been canceled. As my freshman year drew to a close, I received an unexpected call from my mother. Her voice sounded different, less certain than I remembered. "Lana," she said hesitantly, "I've been doing some thinking, some reading actually about family dynamics, and I think I understand better now what you were trying to tell us." It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start, a tiny crack in the wall of denial my parents had built. We talked for almost an hour more honestly than we ever had before. She asked if I would consider coming home for a weekend visit during the summer, and for the first time I felt open to the possibility. The journey of healing with my family would be long, with no guarantees of a picture-perfect resolution. Some wounds leave permanent scars, but as I ended the call with my mother, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. Sometimes the family you choose becomes more important than the one you were born into. I learned that I deserved respect and support, and while losing my family's approval was painful, gaining my self-respect was worth it. The hardest battles often lead to the most important victories in life. Have you ever had to stand up to your family for something important to you? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength during difficult times. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply tell the truth, even when it costs you everything. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to stand up for yourself when no one else will.